So, hey there, I'm Eduardo from the Ivory Tower. Today I wanted to talk about one particular thing that came in mind while thinking about astrology and relationships in general. Nice sip of tea, and we're ready. So, I have been making a post on Facebook talking about how astrology, I always talk about astrology, how really it can explain everything since it's interconnected with everything. And one of the things that it can explain perfectly is relationships too. It's weird, but it works, especially synastry. There are different techniques. The most simple one is just taking two charts and comparing them to each other and see where compared to the first chart the other one is placed, as far as planets go, aspects between the planets of one chart to the other, houses, house cusps in houses, etc. So synastry can help you develop your worldview about relationships, and really not only romantic relationships, also business relationships and every kind of relationship, even relationships between physical things, corporations, projects, everything that has a natal chart. Really, you can compare yourself to it and you can understand what's going on between you and that particular kind of entity, living or non-living. So I've talked about how right now, due to the advent of internet, sorry, sometimes I have to look up the terms. So basically internet made everything, the population growth, it made everything much more superficial, and in a way relationships have become more superficial and more like some kind of good to be consumed. Relationships, and especially dating relationships, a bit less, because if you move from dating to a serious committed relationship, the hopes are that it's a bit more deep than superficial. So I'm talking more about dating, and dating has evolved in a weird way. Maybe it's more like an involution, but anyway, due to the incredible availability of potential mates, of prospective mates that you are proposed with, today it's very difficult actually to find somebody that you want to make a relationship with, whatever. You get what I mean. And this is a natural evolution of how things are right now, because if you have much more options to choose from, then of course, if you have every single problem, no matter how small, it's a problem. So in the never-ending rush towards happiness and perfect life, perfect relationships, perfect job, etc., every single hiccup, every single problem, no matter how small, becomes bigger and bigger, because we are used to being pampered in today's world. And so every single negative thing, while in the past it may have been dealt with as no biggie, right now it's something big. So even if you have just a little bit of toxicity in a relationship, and I'm not condoning toxicity, mind you, but even if you have just a small problem, maybe the other person that you love, you really care about them, but they have a small problem, which is it's a bit toxic in the relationship. I'm not talking about extremes. You don't tolerate it. We do not tolerate each other's defects, imperfections, as we did before as humans, so to speak. Because guess what? If you do not want to step up and become better, or if you just have a problem, why should I carry this weight on myself when I have a whole other slew of options around that I can choose from? I can dump your ass and go and get somebody else, right? So this is a very cynical kind of looking at things. However, that's how, especially in America and really in the Western world today, things have been going, how things have evolved. And of course this has different repercussions for males. For females it's different, it's always been like that, but right now things have been such that these kinds of differences, like the traditional roles have been, in a way, have become more extremized. Yeah, they have become more extreme. Like there's stuff right now, like the red pill, which is born of this kind of situation, and I really hate that. I don't think the red pill is something that you want to have anything to do with, mainly because of the misogynistic and very, very cynical, toxic way, and even calculating way of looking at things that I don't really like. There are, however, some things from which the red pill has been born, which are the things that have inspired, MG Tao, this kind of stuff, which are true, not the things that these groups sustain, like what they support, but there are things that these toxic worldviews come from, such as the fact that maybe women have much more choice. They tend to be passive, and basically they just have to accept one of the many prospective mates that propose to them, whereas males have to do it. They can't be passive, they have to be active, just like we always did, right? But it's different right now because there is much more choice. So there is a divide which has been extremely polarized. Yeah, here we go, polarized. Much more the kinds of men that can't be much attractive, seductive as they would like to be. And this is also true also from the other side, but in a different way. Like for females, for women it's different. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that there is a divide. There is a way that these developments in the internet, and if you're in a city, if you have much more choice, you can see many different women, girls. You also, as a male, as a man, you are stimulated into looking for that that perfect mate, which doesn't have any single defect, any single imperfection, which is just perfect, which is impossible, of course, to find somebody like that. Every single person has their quirks, their imperfections. Mars and Saturn exist for everybody, so Everybody's gotta have some kind of downside to them, no matter how perfect they seem. And of course, the less, the better you are, the more value you have, and the more prospective mates you will have. But this is the way of looking at things from the material, very cynical perspective. This worldview is very rational, it's cold, and it lacks the spiritual part. Because if you think about things in a serious way, now bear with me, if you're a woman, many of these people from the red pill community and MG Tao, pickup artists, stuff like that, their complaint is that women basically just have to be passive and they just have to pick one from the 5,000 men that throw their dicks at them every single day, whereas men have to become strong, they have to raise their value, they have to have a good job, etc., etc. And it's different because women have much more they got it much easier according to them. However, this is completely false. This is not true, because if you are somebody with a minimum of soul, of intelligence, of consciousness inside of you, if you got the I am, if you're not a I don't know, a fucking brute, you just don't say yes to every single woman that you meet. You just don't say yes to every single man that you meet. If you're gay, or if you're a woman, or whatever, if you like men, it just doesn't work like that. You can't, unless you're a narcissistic psychopath that doesn't have feelings. It's actually difficult to find somebody you click with. If you want to have fun, you want to have sex, yeah, sure, you can, but I mean, yeah, you can, but it leaves you empty, quite literally, for males. Also on the inside, yeah, again, quite literally. But even emotionally, you just feel that it's not. What good is there in fucking somebody that doesn't care about you, and the day after that you don't see them anymore, and you look at them and you know that they don't care, they're just there for the fun. This can be liberating for some, but for other people, it's a nightmare, because nobody gives a shit about you. So if you're looking for somebody that cares about you, that is just bad, and it doesn't satisfy you. You have to find somebody with which you really click with, and Synastry can help you do that. And what I wanted to say in this video is that in the end, if you look at Synastry can help you see and understand why you click or don't click with somebody, or why maybe you do just a bit, and there are other things that seem always to go out of place. I'm not talking about conflicts, I'm talking about maybe I don't know, different ways of looking at the world. Maybe there's very strong harmony between your luminaries, excuse me, between each other's luminaries, like, I don't know, your sun and her moon, for example. So there is really a really strong symphony, a really strong harmony. You can feel like each other's thoughts, and the way you guys behave is very it's incredibly harmonious and synchronous with each other. You see each other in each other, you see yourself in the other one. But maybe, I don't know, you got your Saturn square their Jupiter. So it seems that you guys, you have this harmony, but you tend to stifle and suffocate every kind of optimism and every kind of expansion that the other wants, because you look at them and they seem so immature. They seem just like they're not responsible. They're always going with the next thing. They are not concrete in anything. They're not responsible, and that's because your Saturn is in conflict with their Jupiter, and them they feel in turn that you just stifled them, that they can't express themselves, etc., etc. So, but there is this syntony, this very strong harmony between the sun and the moon, your sun and her moon, for example. So both of these conflicting influences will be there and will live with each other, will how do you say it, co-live? No, I mean, they will be there together and they will be in conflict. So your relationship will reflect that. And again, going back to what I was saying at the start of this video, some years ago, without all this incredible choice, dating apps, nightclubs, parties, stuff like that, if you're in a big city, social media, some years ago, a relationship like this would have been a source of growth, because you would stay in that relationship. You would have much more patience. Okay, sorry, had to close the door. So you would have much more patience, because you wouldn't have much choice around that person that has this perfectly okay chart, but your synastry has this conflict. So just the relationship between you and this other person would have been valued much, much more. And maybe you don't find somebody else with which you have a much better chart, for example. Or maybe somebody that you really like, and I don't know, maybe you have a different chart, which is not better, it's not worse. It's better in some ways, it's worse in others. Maybe everything flows, but there is a square between your sun and moon. And you got trines with Jupiter, Venus, everything is perfect sexually, you guys grow with each other, and then there's just that square or that opposition with the sun and the moon. Opposites attract, right? But there is this underlying tension, and there is just something which doesn't click perfectly, and you're like, I don't know, something just doesn't click. I feel it. I felt it since the start. It's better if we separate, because you think, yes, of course, there's so much choice, I can just go on, I can just find somebody else with which I won't have this kind of, back on my head, weird feeling that something isn't right, So you will move on, you will leave that person, and you will move on, you will find somebody else. And of course, in the past, this was much more controlled in a way. This was much more difficult to do, and of course, people had a much higher tolerance. Yeah, there we go. This is what has changed, it's tolerance. in the society of today's day and age, we are much less tolerant because we are pampered by all the goods and all the availability of everything, and so we have much less patience. We tolerate much less. And while this can be good to find somebody, to have many different experiences, they will be much more shallow. The profundity, the depth of the experience is much reduced. And also the growth of the soul, in a way. Because in a way you don't find ways to cope with whatever problems may arise inside the relationship. You just move on. You just think that, I had the experience. Me personally, I'm not like this. But what I see looking in today's, influencers, coaches, stuff like that, psychologists, even by hearing the stories that my friends tell me, it's like this. There is just no patience. There is much less tolerance. There is no staying power. And while you have different experiences, it's much easier to have different experiences and know different people, which is different from knowing a single person and then growing with that person. You just don't grow with a single person. And the problems that arise right now, which are, all these women that become single and they are 40 and over, and they're sad because they don't find anybody else because their beauty is beginning to fade. And we males are more visual creatures, it's normal. It's something that you gotta deal with. So if you don't find anybody, and you don't work on yourself and don't evolve, then you find yourself alone, and that is not good. That is really not what you want. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should stay with somebody because you fear being alone. You should stay with somebody because you want to stay with them. And this is what I'm talking about in this video. This is the point that I want to make. There is actually something good coming out from this consumerism of dating, relationships, human relations, which is variety. And variety, of course, helps you have different experiences, but in the same way, you can be conscious, you can be aware of all these dynamics and move inside this world with the awareness that you can work in a relationship on obstacles. Of course, if it's something extreme like abuse, if it's something like mental health without professional help, therapy, psychological or even psychiatric help, of course you should not stay in that relationship. You should not tolerate abuse. You should not tolerate toxicity. I'm talking about little things that can be tolerated, and that there are little things inside something which has so many beautiful and good and wholesome things that throwing it away would mean throwing away something really important, and then you only realize it later. And the variety of today's options as far as mates, prospective mates, prospective partners go, can, in a way, undermine this awareness. However, there comes a point, I guess, I hope for you, if you're intelligent and smart enough, there comes a point where you realize that you need to find somebody with which you really click with which there is really strong chemistry, and you can work on whatever little problems and imperfections and little things that arise due to natural personal differences inside the relationship. And Synastry can help you do that, because Synastry in a way can have also predictive power, because Synastry predicts it doesn't predict, I mean, it indirectly predicts how the relationship is going to go. It just indicates how you guys are made in a metaphysical way, and what are the potentials of the relationship. And this is just, it's, if you don't believe in astrology, it's just stupid. You can be all like, oh my, but I have willpower, I can power through whatever obstacles, no matter astrology, no matter anything. And I can be, yeah, okay, but it's like, navigating with a ship, with the currents, the underlying sea currents going against you all the time. So instead of, going on a ship and using a paddle, like the thing was it a paddle? Oh my god. Yeah, it's the paddle. Like using a paddle like once every 5 minutes to go somewhere far, because you have the winds and the currents going in your favor. Or you can decide to power through and use your willpower and actually use, fuel and a motorboat and the paddles, and you can just like go there and like, I will do it, and use all your willpower and struggle all you want. But it's just not going to be the same way as just, getting on the boat and enjoying the ride, being pampered by the currents, the wind. It's a way of being blind to how nature, how reality works, and you're gonna pay for it, and it's gonna be you're gonna become neurotic. You're just gonna consume life energy, which you can pour or you can use for something else, but which instead will be used to maintain something which just doesn't flow. And this is where you have to understand that, it's okay, you can let go of that relationship if it just doesn't work. And Synastry can help you do that. Synastry can help you understand really what's going on behind the scenes, and it can give you an instrument, a tool, just one more tool to understand what's really going on. And if you really want to, if it's really worth the struggle, because if you see a Synastry and you really like that person, but you always have problems with that person, if you see all squares and oppositions and really horrible things like Saturn squaring and opposing a shit ton of stuff in the other's chart, well, it's it may just not have meant to be. So I'm thinking about an image, a meme that I saw some days ago, where there was I think it was the spirit guide of a guy going to God and saying something like, please God, they don't understand that they're not meant for each other. I'm trying to tell, the guy that I'm the spirit guide of, I'm trying to tell him in all possible ways. He just doesn't understand. They keep on destroying each other. It's so bad. And God says, the big old guy with the beard sitting on the clouds, he says something like, why? I made sure that I told them in every possible way that they're not compatible, by fixing all the planets in their Synastry chart. They're all wrong. So why do they keep on staying with each other if they already saw that and they know that I told them that it's not meant to be, because the Synastry is shit. And the spirit guide responds something like, yeah, but she sent him a message at 11 a.m. So yeah, this is also a critique to modern and new age thought, because of course the traditional point of view is much more solid, and yeah, really, it can be taken as a communication from God, the Synastry, because it's a natural it's a natural emanation of God. We are connected, according to Agrippa, to the divine world through the celestial world. It's the celestial world that tells us what's going on in the divine, and that translates, so to speak, the influences of the divine here in the natural world. So yeah, if you look at the celestial world, and in this case, if you look at your natal chart, and you see what's going on for you divinely, what archetypes, what gods, what ideas, what's going on metaphysically inside of yourself, what is your nature, your metaphysical nature, and then you compare it to the nature of somebody else, and you see that they're just not compatible. That is a communication from God. It's not a direct communication, it's an indirect communication. You're reading the divine. So yeah. And I've been guilty of doing that, of thinking that random synchronicities and random numbers and stuff like that were signs, because I was destined to be with this or that person, and maybe I had to try even more or try even harder. And really it wasn't. It was just random stuff moved by my emotions, with no particular meaning whatsoever. So what I had to look at was the synastry between me and that other person, and also to take a look at their chart, what their problems were, and understand if I really wanted to carry the weight of this person's fate on my back, and also understanding what was the current evolution of that soul, and if there were any toxic behaviors and any toxic things that they brought inside of the relationship, and there were. So sometimes the most immediate things take precedence over the most metaphysical ones, like the environment sometimes, or really the majority of times, takes precedence over the astrology, just because of priorities. So you gotta take a look at what's in front of you, and then of course you can integrate that with a better understanding of what's going on behind the curtains by looking at the synastry, at the astrology of it, and if it's a relationship, of course, at the synastry between you and the other person. So yeah, what I wanted to say, the point is that while we have this shallowness and this consumerism that has been brought to relationships, and especially dating, because of course dating is much more superficial. At the same time, we can understand that this can be good because you have much more much more variety. You have much more people you are subject to, not subject to. You can know, you can feel different people. You can get to know them. You can feel their energies, their nature, and you have much more choice, and you are going to be shuttled, so to speak, towards the person that you really resonate with, which can be different persons in the course of your life. It's very rare to find just a single person that does that for you, mainly because there will be different persons at different developments that will have different natal charts. Of course, I am always partial to the point of view of astrology, so always look at it in an astrological way. But really, astrology is something which is the study of the repeating patterns and the divine in the world. So I think that it's something so important and so enmeshed in reality. It's you just cannot discount it. It's not pseudoscience. If anything, I think that modern society's materialism is something which is in defect, in lack, is lacking something, which is astrology, which is the divine, the worldview of the divine, which is not woo-woo, frou-frou stuff. It's something really practical, really concrete. And it's more of a big picture worldview. Today's world is more it's more mercurial. It just pays more attention to details instead of looking at the general bigger picture of things. And there's a reason why Mercury and Jupiter are opposite each other. And Mercury analyzes, is scientific, it's more related to details, and Jupiter is more about religion, philosophy, bigger view, the forest instead of the tree. I think the world of today needs more Jupiter, and that's also maybe why religion and spirituality tends to have much of a background, sometimes even ridiculed kind of space in today's society in the West. So I think we lack that. And there are many people that say that before incarnating we have soul contracts, and maybe we know many different kinds of people, and they just come in our lives because they were meant to teach us that particular thing, that particular lesson. And yes, it can be, but it can also be a way maybe of coping with today's society and today's ways of just taking people, crushing them like lemons, extracting the juice and then throwing away the peel, as far as dating goes, especially for people that are more like sociopathic or narcissistic, or yeah, that are just detached from themselves, from emotions, and that don't feel this sort of connection to others, and that just can't imagine living something like that. Maybe because it's something which can be a weakness, or maybe because of whatever happened in their childhood with their parents. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, as I said, just to recapitulate everything that I told, it's not always bad. Today's availability of choices, it's not something bad. It's bad only if you lose yourself in it, because really it can help you in getting more experience and really finding somebody that you really click with, the one. Even though I don't think there is the one. I think that we have many different people that we really click and have chemistry with, and maybe there are many testimonials and stories, near-death experiences and anecdotes of people saying that yes, we got contracts, we accept contracts with other souls before incarnating. So yes, maybe there are different people that we have to do stuff with in this life, and maybe there is the one. Maybe there is for you. Maybe you did. But while you're here, if you don't remember, because we don't remember, except if you need to, or if you are a really high level spiritual being, I don't know. If you're not that, then it's not your problems. You just have to live and go through whatever the universe is trying to put in front of you. So yeah, sometimes if obstacles appear, you can work through them and you can power through them. Some other times you have to let go, and Synastry can help you understand which is which. And the variety of people that today are available to you, if you really pay attention to what you feel inside, you can feel that all this dating, all this kind of stuff, it's just superficial. It's like you do have rails. It's like your soul has rails, like you have a path in life, and you can feel when somebody is not related to your path in life, and that's when you can have fun if you want, But of course, a relationship with this kind of people, it's not feasible. Carl Jung also comes to mind. So this will be the closing remarks. And to me, at least what I understood of Carl Jung's way of looking at things, of looking at the world, his paradigm, his philosophy, to me, he just wanted people to live life more intensely and more fully. And he was really against the direction the society was going toward at his time. So, think about what he would have said of today's society. But yeah, if I got a friend that is involved in a very toxic relationship. It's like a pattern of his. He tends to be involved in toxic upon toxic relationship, and I think there are many things that these toxic girls are mirroring to him, because he also has some very strong things that he should be aware of and he should work on, but whatever, that's on him. And he always tells me about this stuff, and I'm always like, oh, why do you keep on staying with this person if she's got mental problems? She doesn't distinguish reality from truth. She is probably, I don't know, borderline. She's unstable. She's depressed. She's got so many absurd problems. She needs help, and it's been years that you're trying to help her. It's been years that you're trying to get her to a good professional. It's been years that you are suffering, and you're still with her. Why don't you just move on? It makes you suffer. It sucks energy out of you. You see that there is no hope. You see that she doesn't want to be helped. So just move on. Leave her to her destiny. Bow down to her destiny, to the sovereignty that she has on her life. She's an adult. You try to help her. You cannot help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. Just check out, leave her. And I have been guilty of having this point of view, because probably, if you think about Carl Gustav Jung's philosophy, there is something that he still has to work through, because he still stays with her. He still, his soul still feels that he still wants to be with her. And even if it's a living nightmare, and if you've been in a toxic relationship, you know what I'm talking about. Even if it's a nightmare, he still stays with her, and she still stays with him. And I've heard both. I've heard her talk about him and what he does, and I've heard him talking about her and what she does. And I have to say, that is, it seems like nobody's right and everybody's right, and it's just something that their souls are going through. And if you were to follow today's consumeristic, shallow, superficial way of looking at things and at dating, you would just be, yeah, she's toxic, all right, goodbye. Yeah, I will suffer for some weeks, some months, but then I will be okay. Plenty of other girls, and instead, no, you should not do that. You should go out of a toxic relationship, but until your soul is ready to do that, it means that there is still something that you have to go through. It may be that you still need the awareness, you still need to develop the awareness and the strength of becoming aware of what's inside of you that's bringing this person toward you, or that is making you attracted toward that person. And then taking action. And taking action is also very difficult when your soul and your deep, intense, scorpionic emotions are involved. We could say plutonic, but the traditional people will shoot me. But yeah, the more deep, complex, primordial, visceral emotions, when they're involved, good luck in actually doing and detaching from the situation. You just can't. You just have to go through it. You have to die and be reborn, like the phoenix from the ashes. Yes, we know. But yes, it is true. You have to be burned alive by whatever your soul has decided to go through, because you have to go through. Your soul is being molded by the energies, by the strong emotions, by the visceral, really deep emotions. They're so visceral, so deep, so strong, and so hurtful, so painful, because they are very deep inside of you. They are part of your core, and when our cores are put in discussion, when you are changing your core, you don't have the securities. Your ego just explodes in alarm. You just don't have the securities that you had before. Your whole personality is put in discussion. So you're changing your identity and your ways of looking at the world, and primordially, instinctually, that is not good. Your brain does not like that. That is a direct threat to your survival. That's why opening up in relationships, in intimacy, being intimate, being true to yourself, being open to with your deepest, darkest emotions and sharing them in a relationship cannot be achieved by dating. And that's why relationships are transformative. That's why the 8th house is the house also of death, rebirth, sex, intimacy, and stuff like that. And that's why, at least according to the moderns, that's why, in my opinion, it comes as a natural succession of the 7th house, which is the house of open relationships. What's the next step? Of course, more intimate relationships. So yeah, I guess this video is an ode to, like a hymn to living fully and viscerally, even if the relationship is toxic. I do not condone toxic relationships, though. I think you should get the fuck out of there. However, there is a reason you got involved in it in the first place. Remember that persecutors, how are they called? Executioners, evil people cannot be executioners, cannot be evil people, cannot be those who persecute the other, those who make evil, those who hurt the others, if they don't have a victim. So when you have somebody that hurts you, manipulates you, that is really toxic and is bad for you, remember that he or she is playing a part and you are playing another part. You are playing scripts. You guys are identifying each other in roles. And if you shift this identification, which is very difficult to do because we base our survival on identification of roles, then if you can do that, and if you can keep it up and win the inertia and the struggles that start to come out when you change that, then the relationship either breaks or changes. And if you get out of the victim role, you can get out of these dynamics. So yeah, there is something which you're guilty of if you're the victim, which may be not removing yourself from the situation, which may be inciting the situation without for not having boundaries in the first place, which can be tolerating too much. And of course, I'm not talking about extreme situations where you got very toxic people that maybe threaten you physically. I'm not talking about those situations, but even then, before getting into this kind of relationship, you have been attracted to that kind of person. So there is something inside of you, like a void or like some kind of information which is perfectly filled or which is perfectly attractive of that kind of person, which ended up threatening you. Am I culpabilizing the victim? In a way, yes. Alright, sorry, I meant blaming blaming the victim. Am I blaming the victim? Not exactly. Sometimes yes, it's much more complicated than that though, because as you can see, you cannot just go around and say to a victim, oh, it's your fault. Oh, of course it's not like that. It's much more complicated, and it involves something of a reasoning which is not for everybody. So yeah, sometimes you're just a victim. Maybe you married a psycho, or maybe I don't know and you just don't have any kind of blame, so sometimes it just happens, and my sympathies go to you if that happens. But some other times, after you are out of a situation, you can understand that you did something, or you were something that attracted that situation in the first place, that person in the first place. And sometimes, they can just be psychopaths that you decided to, you had the soul contract with before incarnating, to just explore being a victim of the psychopath in this incarnation. It can be. But the majority of the time, if the situation is not that extreme, then yes, you have your fault in it. You had something, or you were something, and you were not aware of it. So that person comes into your life to make you see and make you understand that you had that inside of you, and you have to balance that out. Again, we go back to balance. But anyway, I will close this parenthesis here. It's been almost an hour now. Thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you liked this conversation, this monologue with me. I am Eduardo of the Ivory Tower, and if you want any kinds of consultations, I do tarological consultations, half an hour, 1 hour. I sell astrological talismans, which are elected according to electional standards, Picatrix standards, etc. You can see them in the shop section, section of my page, of my Facebook page, which is the Ivory Tower, at Eidos the Ivory Tower. You can join my Telegram if you want updates and stuff like that. I also have a Bitchute account. I put also videos there in case anything happens, if you want to buy my talismans or my services. I also do natal charts in video. You can see everything in my Facebook page, in the services and shop sections of the page. And you can reach out everywhere, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and that's it. Click the notification bell, because you don't get notifications if you don't click on the bell. Just do that. Alright, until next one, bye. And here we go.